an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So by practicing this lifestyle of in the morning and in the evening and throughout the day, breathing in the Spirit of God and the air and the freshness, the good things that He has for us, it will change our lives. It will make our lives. We have the cure for cardiovascular disease. We have the cure for diabetes. We have the cure for almost all the cancers, for asthma, for the skin diseases. Okay? So, and we're about to start this one on stress here. This is our second to last meeting. And we're going to skip one of them. There's 10. We're only doing 9. So let's have our first slide. We did. You want to have another prayer? Let's double it up. Okay? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this special time that we've had revealing so much good that you've poured into us. We've gone through 8 lessons, Lord, here, and learned so much, more than anyone could take in, and there's so much goodness that you have. Our cup has overflowed. We have one more meeting tomorrow, Lord, and I just pray that your Spirit would open us up tonight to another blessing you have on us in this knowledge here. In your name, Christ Jesus, I pray, amen. So welcome. And we have, from the Blue Zone, we have seen what has happened to these people from the Blue Zone in California. And we've been able to reverse most of the common diseases and prevent most of them. And it's available to every single person on planet Earth. Okay? So, to trust more is to stress less. You cannot be in both of these states at the same time. Okay? You're going to have a stressful life. Things are going to get worse. Okay? So start your day out with trust. And what causes sickness and disease? Our next slide here. We know that this is actually a good thing. Let's skip to the next slide. This is actually a good thing because it's our body telling us that there's something going on. Sickness and disease, they're putting forth an effort on the systems of our body, producing diseases because there's been violation of laws. And we've gone over 9 of them. Each of these laws that we've gone over has life-changing effects on people, does it not? Every night we revealed stuff from doing a self-bypass surgery to decreasing your cholesterol by 39%, increasing your neutrophils that kill all your virus off by half, bringing down your blood pressure by half, 50%, on every single one of these. We didn't just learn that once, we learned it on every single night and showed scientific facts on how you can reduce it. So add all those up. We have cured heart disease. We have cured diabetes and cancer and many other diseases by these free remedies that are underneath everyone's nose. So sickness and disease are a good thing. They're an indicator. Let's be positive about this. We have the cure. His name is Jesus, and he has given us the health message. Our next slide. Okay, so what is stress? So we're going to get into this. Our next slide here. Okay, stress is the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or a response. Next slide. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, is it? Not on its own. Live temperately is one of the health principles, right, that we studied. Remember that? Violating this principle can lead to stress, but so will violating the principles of water, nutrition, and all of them. Actually, so every one of the health laws that we have is either a negative if you break it, or it's a huge blessing if you keep it. And we saw these doctors, and we'll see more tonight, showing all the bad stuff it does to your body. Likewise, you get all the blessings, more blessings in your body when we do it, in our minds and every one of our organs. Let's look at our next slide. Okay, so who to trust? Who do we trust? We know that the world says to trust yourself, follow your heart. And we have the opposite. We believe in the opposite. We believe that self-distrust is the answer, and trust in a higher power, your true love, the ultimate creator of all the worlds, Jesus Christ. He is the one that we trust. We don't follow our heart. We don't listen. We don't fly on magic carpet rides, because we know that the heart is desperately wicked and deceitful, right? We know who is right and righteous, and we follow him. How many people have looked back on our lives and seen the mistakes we've made? That was when we were trusting who? What the world said, when we were trusting our hearts, what we wanted to do, what our desires were. People who look back and trust on God, trust on God and his path, right? So let's look at our next slide. Definitely a complete contrast to what the world tells us to do. Next slide. All right, thank you.
When the body is under stress, the adrenal glands release a hormone called cortisol, also known as the stress hormone. Cortisol, in turn, causes stored sugar to be released into the bloodstream to provide more energy for the body to fight stress. Excess cortisol production is also known to make the body cells resistant to insulin. When the body is under stress, the adrenal glands release a hormone called cortisol, also known as the stress hormone. Cortisol, in turn, causes stored sugar to be released into the bloodstream to provide more energy for the body to fight stress. Excess cortisol production is also known to make the body cells resistant to insulin. When the body is under stress, the adrenal glands release a hormone called cortisol, also known as the stress hormone. Cortisol, in turn, causes stored sugar to be released into the bloodstream to provide more energy for the body to fight stress. Excess cortisol production is also known to make the body cells resistant to insulin.
Cramming for a test? Trying to get more done than you have time to do? Stress is a feeling we all experience when we are challenged or overwhelmed. But more than just an emotion, stress is a hardwired physical response that travels throughout your entire body. In the short term, stress can be advantageous, but when activated too often or too long, your primitive fight or flight stress response not only changes your brain, but also damages many of the other organs and cells throughout your body. Your adrenal gland releases the stress hormones cortisol, epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and norepinephrine. As these hormones travel through your bloodstream, they easily reach your blood vessels and heart. Adrenaline causes your heart to beat faster and raises your blood pressure, over time causing hypertension. Cortisol can also cause the endothelium, or inner lining of blood vessels, to not function normally. Scientists now know that this is an early step in triggering the process of atherosclerosis, or cholesterol plaque buildup in your arteries. Together, these changes increase your chances of a heart attack or stroke. When your brain senses stress, it activates your autonomic nervous system. Through this network of nerve connections, your big brain communicates stress to your enteric or intestinal nervous system. Besides causing butterflies in your stomach, this brain-gut connection can disturb the natural rhythmic contractions that move food through your gut, leading to irritable bowel syndrome, and can increase your gut's sensitivity to acid, making you more likely to feel heartburn. Via the gut's nervous system, stress can also change the composition and function of your gut bacteria, which may affect your digestive and overall health. Speaking of digestion, does chronic stress affect your waistline? Well, yes. Cortisol can increase your appetite. It tells your body to replenish your energy stores with energy-dense foods and carbs, causing you to crave comfort foods. High levels of cortisol can also cause you to put on those extra calories as visceral or deep belly fat. This type of fat doesn't just make it harder to button your pants. It is an organ that actively releases hormones and immune system chemicals called cytokines that can increase your risk of developing chronic diseases such as heart disease and insulin resistance. Meanwhile, stress hormones affect immune cells in a variety of ways. Initially, they help prepare to fight invaders and heal after injury, but chronic stress can dampen the function of some immune cells, make you more susceptible to infections, and slow the rate you heal. Want to live a long life? You may have to curb your chronic stress. That's because it has even been associated with shortened telomeres, the shoelace tip ends of chromosomes that measure a cell's age. Telomeres cap chromosomes to allow DNA to get copied every time a cell divides without damaging the cell's genetic code, and they shorten with each cell division. When telomeres become too short, a cell can no longer divide, and it dies. As if all that weren't enough, chronic stress has even more ways it can sabotage your health, including acne, hair loss, sexual dysfunction, headaches, muscle tension, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, and irritability. So, what does all this mean for you? Your life will always be filled with stressful situations, but what matters to your brain and entire body is how you respond to that stress. If you can view those situations as challenges you can control and master, rather than as threats that are insurmountable, you will perform better in the short run and stay healthy in the long run.
Okay. And in a minute, then let's show that extra video that we had, Osama. So, yeah, we don't believe in Mid-Eastern floating and doing this, emptying our minds. We believe in filling our minds with the gratefulness and thankfulness to God for all the good things that He has done and the beliefs, just to be clear on that. Also, did you notice how completely repetitious this entire seminar has been about cortisol? Over and over again, we've seen that breaking the laws of God releases cortisol and the domino effect to your fat, to your whole body, doing destruction to your body. Has anybody seen that? It's the same thing over and over again in all of these things, from the junk food, the intemperance, to not giving to other people. Everything. It's the same story, different remedy. Interesting. Real quickly, let's talk about heartburn. Have we talked about heartburn yet? The cure for heartburn is vitamin B6, pantothenic acid, okay? And you'll take a bottle of it. It's $10 at GNC. Take a bottle of it. It's in bananas. It's a natural thing. You'll take it you'll take 3 pills 3 times a day for a week, and then you finish the bottle. That will cure your heartburn. And that from that point on, you just need to have charcoal if you eat the wrong foods, greasy foods. So throw that out there. And let's go through this real quick. 43% of all adults suffer side effects from stress. Wow. Okay. 75 to 90% of doctors' office visits are stress-related. So if everyone would get up in the morning, breathe some fresh air, go for a walk, de-stress and put their minds in thankfulness to God, it would get rid of road rage. It would get rid of most all the heart attacks for that day. It would get rid of, it would start your day right for whatever's going to come at you. It would change your life. It would change America if we would start our day out right. Stress can play a part in problems such as headaches, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, skin condition, asthma, arthritis, depression, anxiety. They say it costs Americans $300 billion annually. The lifetime prevalence of emotional disorders is more than 50% due to chronic, untreated. Okay, we ready to go here? Okay, thank you. Were you able to read that? Was that mind-opening? Wow. And I don't know what you got out of that, but we all got different things out of that. It was a lot to say. It's addictive. It also bypasses your neocortex. Going to the amygdala, you bypass your filing cabinet, your life experiences, your logic. And it had reminiscence of a metaphor almost for being an alcoholic. You know, it kills your brain. Whoever thought of that? Being angry lowers your intelligence. And what was it doing to the rest of your organs? Killing you. It kills you. So we think about these people, we feel sorry for these other people that are bitter and angry, and that's why they're literally killing. You're literally killing yourself by remembering old memories, bringing up things that make you angry. What's the point? of winning the argument? What's the point of being right if you're killing yourself? Unmanaged stress can lead to several lifestyle diseases, including high blood pressure, heart disease, and cancer. Okay. Next slide. Thank you. Okay. Is it possible to completely eliminate all stress? Right? Kind of a trick question. All right, let's go on. We'll have a video on that. True. We'll discuss all that.
Stress is part and parcel of living in modern society these days, and it can really play havoc with our health. Because when you're under stress, all roads lead to the refrigerator. When you're under stress, you light up cigarettes. When you're under stress, you don't exercise. And so we need to figure out what to do about stress. There are 3 things that I would suggest to you that will help you manage stress. The first is exercise, exercise, exercise. When you exercise on a daily basis, your brain produces endorphins that make you feel like you are more in control. And a lot of us are stressed because we think our lives are out of control. This really helps. Number 2, have a sense of perspective. It's not the event that causes stress, it's the way we look at the event that causes stress. And so if you look at it positively, then you are able to help manage your stress more successfully. And number 3, understand what your fundamental goals and values are and ask the question, am I living in concert with these goals and values? There's a simple and easy little test that we can take to see where you are with your goals and values. It's called the Epitaph Test, and it goes like this. If you were to die today based on the way you're living today, what goes on the stone? I did this in a seminar, and I had this male voice from the back of the room say, "This isn't going so well." And I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, if I died today, we'd have to put on the tombstone, "Here lies the best widget salesman in the 11 Western states." And I said, "Well, what would you prefer?" He said, "Well, I'd much rather have been known as a wonderful husband and a terrific father, but I'm traveling all the time, and I never get to see my family." It was a considerable source of stress for him. I saw him a year later. "How are you doing?" I asked. He said, "I'm the best widget salesman in 4 Western states." He said, "I've cut down my territory. I'm still very productive." But he said, "Now I coach my children's baseball team. I'm home enough to be a full partner to my wife." He said, "If I died today, husband and father goes on the stone." So stress is part and parcel of living in modern society, but we don't have to accept it. We can learn how to manage that stress effectively with exercise, with perspective, and with paying attention to goals and values.
Learning to better cope with stress will improve every area of your life and every part of your body. Stress affects everything within us. Look at what stress does. You know, stress is one of those things that oftentimes starts in the brain. Your hypothalamus signals your pituitary. The pituitary then signals something called your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands live above your kidneys, and they release something called epinephrine, as well as other stress hormones commonly thought of as adrenaline. Adrenaline then affects your liver because your liver wants to increase the amount of glucose in your system. What also happens with stress hormones is your heart beats faster, your blood pressure goes up, over time increasing your risk for heart attacks, strokes, very dangerous things. But you know what? It doesn't just affect your cardiovascular system. It also increases inflammation throughout your body, including in your arteries. You know what? It even affects people's breathing, hyperventilation, and other things when you become too stressed. So, hey, what about your GI tract? People can have nausea, vomiting, stress ulcers. I know some people that when they get stressed, they actually develop constipation or diarrhea. Oh, yeah. So what you're looking at there is an animation of every single essential organ system in the body being affected by something called stress. And when 80% of Americans report feeling stress in their lives or being overstressed, this is a major problem.
And one of the things that you can't really show up there is fertility. Research has absolutely proven that stress affects fertility. So, and that's why a lot of people, when they go on vacation, all of a sudden they get pregnant.
There's definitely a difference between stress and anxiety. And the difference is stress is usually the result of a stressor. Like you said, finances. It could be marriage difficulties, work. Anxiety, to contrast with stress, is when you remove a stressor and you're still feeling anxiety. That is what we call, in many cases, a pathologic condition. That needs help. Some level of stress in your life is what gets you off the couch. It gets you to work hard. So I want to say that short-term bursts of stress can be good for you. Learning to better cope with stress will improve every area of your life.
Okay, good deal. Cortisol is a hormone released into the bloodstream when a person is stressed and can cause abdominal fat to accumulate. Okay, yeah, we've seen how that all works together in a comorbid effect. Okay, our next slide. Stress is necessary, okay, we know that, but it's harmful when its duration exceeds a person's capacity to react constructively. So, it's okay to be angry, right? It's just what we do with these things, if we're in control of them or they're in control of us. So Dr. Walter Bradford, professor of Harvard, coined the phrase fight or flight. The effects of negative emotions, jealousy, hate, envy, bitterness, anger, and danger actually create poisons, not psychologically, but physiologically in the blood. These powerful toxic substances weaken the body's functioning as a result. Okay, okay, and here's everything. How to tell if you're stressed. Wow, what a list, huh? And pretty much covering every part of our life. So there was one cancer clinic in Tennessee that they didn't do anything but de-stress people, and they were able to cure 87% of the cancers that they had. All right, next. We have a video coming up here. All right.
Stress is a part of life, and it's not always a bad part of life. Most of us enjoy good stress in small doses, like roller coasters, watching sports, or even a scary movie. That's the kind of stress that keeps us young and on our toes. Then there's bad stress, or worse, chronic stress. Negative stress isn't just in your head. It can affect us both mentally and physically. Stress hormones in the body for extended periods of time can physically age our cells. So when you're stressed at work or home, your cells look and act older, making you look older and even impacting your immune system. Not only does it add years to your appearance, it can also affect your memory, making brain cells shrink permanently. Even short-term stress can make it hard for you to remember simple things. The good news is, you can manage stress now to prevent more damage to your body and mind tomorrow. Stress management is a skill that can be learned. Check out Blue KC's Tips to Manage Stress video for ways to beat stress for a longer, healthier, and happier life.
Okay. I think we already had this one here. Okay. Our mindset, isn't it? We control everything we do here. All right, next. We can. We'll talk more about that. How different people handle stress differently. Trust more, stress less, okay? Did you know that your emotional intelligence, your ability to identify, assess, and control emotions in yourself plays a role in how well we manage stress? Do you also know that your overall outlook on life, whether positive or negative, content or dissatisfied, can have a direct effect on your stress levels? The key to managing stress is to look and focus on the positives in life. Life every day with gratitude for all that you have. And that's kind of the key to what we've been talking about in these seminars. Okay? Well, there is such a thing as positive stress, okay? All right? Preparation and determination are required. Everything that we've learned has been something that we have to intentionally create in our lives. God is a creator and made in his image. These things that we've learned in this seminar will not happen unless we literally create the time. Isn't that true? Okay, next.
The holiday season can be a stressful time, but be careful. Studies show stress makes you age faster right down to your cells. Here with us to discuss stress and its effects on physical aging is Thea Singer, author of the book Stress Less. Thanks so much for joining us, Thea.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So tell us how stress is related to physical aging.
Okay. We've heard forever that stress can make us sick. It can contribute to cardiovascular disease, to dampened immune system, but new science is showing us that it can actually physically age us all the way down to our cells. Wow. I'm going to use my little shoelace prop here to explain that. In our cells, we have a nucleus. In the nucleus are our chromosomes. They're like two worms crossed at the middle. On our chromosomes lies our DNA, our genetic material, the very substance of our being. At the ends of our chromosomes are these little caps, just like the caps on the end of this shoelace. Mm-hmm. They're called telomeres. Just like these plastic tips on the shoelace keep the shoelace from fraying, the telomeres on the ends of our chromosomes keep our DNA safe. Now, every time a cell divides, the telomere gets a little bit shorter, and this is why scientists look at length of telomeres as a marker of biological aging.
Now does stress also make the telomeres shorter?
Well, this is where the really exciting revolutionary research came in. Alyssa Epel at UCSF, she's a health psychologist, and Nobel Prize winner Elizabeth Blackburn did a study. They looked at these moms who were caregivers of chronically ill children, and which is an incredibly stressful situation to be under. They gave them a test. It's called the Perceived Stress Test, which is in my book, to see how they perceived their situations regarding stress. And what they found was the moms who perceived themselves as being under the most stress had telomeres that were shorter by the equivalent of 10 years than those who perceive themselves as being under the least stress.
That is fascinating. But what I want to point out and talk about next is that you talk about perceived stress. So
Absolutely.
Does that mean that all stress is relative?
What that means is that there's really no such thing as objective stress. Think about it.
Right.
You know, you probably get less stressed out in front of this camera than I get stressed out. It all has to do with perceptions.
Right.
And while we can't change our circumstances, what we can change is the way we see the world. We can alter our perceptions.
Well, let me just throw something out hypothetically. I would imagine that being in a life or death situation is an objectively stressful situation.
Well, here's the thing about being in a life or death situation. That's called acute stress. That's actually a good kind of stress. Because what happens when you're in that life or death situation? You need to flee, okay, or you need to fight. And so your stress hormones rev up, your cardiovascular system, your heart beats, your brain gets more acute, you see better. So that's a good kind of stress. That lasts for just a short period of time. But again, you have to remember.
It revs up your system.
It revs up your
ready
system.
To go.
That's good. You're Juliet waiting in the wings. You're going to go on and see Romeo.
Adrenaline pumping.
Absolutely. As Bruce McEwen, who's a stress guru, and he's at the Rockefeller University, told me, without stress, we'd be dead.
Right.
We don't want to get rid of stress. What's bad is when it's chronic or when it's repeated.
So do we have some control then over our stress levels, how we perceive our stress? Are there exercises that we can do to eliminate some of the stress?
Absolutely. There are many things that we can do to essentially stress-proof our brains. Exercise, for instance, is a huge one. And this doesn't just mean when you're feeling stressed to go jump on that treadmill. If you are on that treadmill beforehand and for a certain period of time, aerobic exercise, the CDC recommends 150 minutes a week, you're actually stress-proofing your brain. You're making it hardier. So when you perceive a stressful situation, it doesn't seem to be as much of a threat. Instead, it can seem to be a challenge. There are other things that we can do. Social support is a huge way to reduce stress, and it actually changes your brain as well.
What about what we eat? Does that have an effect?
What we eat does have an effect. Now, there aren't a lot of absolute foods out there that reduce stress, although a study that was done at Penn State University shows that pistachio nuts, in moderation, can actually reduce our blood vessels' response to stressors.
And I'm guessing sleep is a big one.
Sleep is a huge one. Sleep, deprivation is used as a torture technique because not getting enough sleep is so stressful.
So bottom line, since we're running out of time, have a few pistachio nuts, get a lot of sleep, meet with your girlfriends once a week, chat it out, and exercise.
Meditate a little or go for a mindful walk. Slow down how you're eating. It's not just what you eat, it's how you eat that can make a huge difference in what happens with your stress hormones.
Thank you so much. That was fascinating stuff. And for more information on stress and aging, check out Stress Less by Thea Singer.
Right, good stuff. Wasn't that great? Had a lot of information, didn't she? Went over a lot of the keys, didn't she have? She seemed like she had a lot of the same keys that we have. She talked about exercise, talked about nutrition. She even talked a little, which will be our last subject tomorrow. We'll talk about nutrition. She talked about how we eat, right? So she had a little advanced knowledge on that. Do we have another slide here? She also talked about trust and our perception. Okay. Okay. Is that it? I think we're getting close to the end here. So let me just say, she covered a lot of things, didn't she? But there's even more, right? Okay, so trust more, stress less, one or the other, right? It's going to produce cortisol. We went over that. Okay, it produces, diabetic symptoms, cholesterol, cardiovascular disease on the second to last one there, obesity. As we've gone through all these people get a couple things, don't they? Every video had a few things to help us. Okay, our next slide. Individuals who are negative and pessimistic handle stress better. Well, they sure talk about it more, don't they? Boy, some of these people can go off for hours about a problem before it's happened. You ever met someone like that? They talk about something before it's happened, and then it comes out everything that was all right. So basically, like the creator is the creator of the universe, yes, you have creative power. You just destroyed the 3 hours before this event for no reason. Thank you so much. Let's learn not to, be, that's also, we're not prophets, you're bad. You're more of a psychic because you were wrong, right? Because the psychics are usually wrong. Okay, the three ways to minimize stress or to handle it. We can minimize it, manage it, or maximize it. Okay. And these 10 laws that we're given are how we live our lives, is how we maximize it. So what is the most productive method of addressing stress for overall health, managing it? What we've talked about, these laws of health. Okay? Okay. The ultimate antidote to stress is trust. And think about it. They only have a couple things, and we have these 10 laws. I mean, I just don't feel like I'm clear on that. We have the cure-all for all these, for stress. We have it all, right? They had a few of them. And we've gone over all these each night, from the air, the sun, the rest, to giving, the power of saying no. All these were deep, right? We have so many of them. And I think that this idea from the new life that we're getting, it's the answer. It's something to be excited about. And it's rich. There's a depth here. There's an adventure that we're almost ending with, but it'll continue on because this knowledge of God and His good stuff never ends. So in conclusion, for tonight, grasp this idea and create a new life. Grab these principles and make your life better, and practice a mindset of living a life of gratefulness. so that these chain reactions of cortisol and adrenaline don't go through it. We really have no need to be angry for most of the things that we're angry about. There's a whole lot of things we should be angry about that we're not even thinking about. But most of the things that our life has are heavy weights that we have put upon ourselves. It's not necessary. Has God not gotten you this far in life? Has he not saved you over and over again? And that's the trust that we need to live with moment by moment. And with that, let's have a closing prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much that we can trust you, that you are the cure-all for everything. And you want us to be healthy and happy, Lord. And we want to accept that in our lives. And I pray that our cup would just overflow. Everyone that came to this seminar, I pray that you would just pour into them so much good, Lord, that there's a real change in their life, Lord, and help them, each of us, to grasp a little closer to you. In your name, Christ, I pray. Amen. Okay, so tomorrow night is going to be the last one on nutrition. So we're going to have church, and then we're going to have a meal, and then we're going to have our seminar. 1:30. I said tomorrow night? Tomorrow noon. So yeah, nothing's going on tomorrow night. We're going to have it right after lunch. So, and it'll be a good one. So